Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my third Rambo film review, and today it is Rambo 3, the 1988 Rambo sequel that was directed by Peter Mcdonald and of course stars Sylvester Stallone as John Rambo. We have Richard Crenna as Colonel Trautman, and we have Mark de Jong as the evil Russian commander in Afghanistan. Now, as you are aware, I have chosen to review all the Rambo films leading up to the release of Rambo Last Blood on the 20th of September. I've already put up the first two reviews on the channel of First Blood and Rambo First Blood Part 2. And as I explained in my last review, this film, Rambo 3, is my least favourite of the Rambo franchise. And this one focuses on John Rambo, who after the end of Rambo First Blood Part 2 decided to stay in Thailand, and he is tracked down at the beginning of the film by Trautman and I think it's a CIA operative, Kurtwood Smith, and he finds him stick fighting in a warehouse in Thailand, and he's living in a monastery, and he gives all his money from the fights to the monks. He's quite happy in existence in this monastery, helping rebuild and do repairs and things, but Trautman wants him to come on another mission with him to Afghanistan, as there is a particularly brutal Russian commander there who is strangleholding the rebel Afghan forces, and they are unable to basically fight back, and the US have ordered to send in a small team to aid in this, investigate and aid where they can, and Trautman wants Rambo by his side, understandably. But Rambo refuses. He doesn't want to do it anymore, he's had enough, and Trautman heads off on his own and ultimately gets captured, which then leads to Rambo asking if they can get him in on his own, and he will mount a rescue operation to get Trautman back. And that essentially is what happens once he gets to Afghanistan. He's got to gain the trust of the Afghan rebel fighters, and then mount a rescue attempt to free Trautman and then make their escape into Pakistan. So that's the basic story that we get here with Rambo 3. Now, at the time of its production, I think Rambo 3 it cost something like 63 million to make, around that mark, and I think I'm right in thinking at the time it was the most expensive film ever made. Stallone, probably part of that was because Stallone demanded, like, he wanted a jet plane as part of his payment for the film, which he got. And I think at this point in his career, Stallone, he may admit it himself, his ego was kind of taken over a little bit. And once again, what we get here is the superhero Rambo, rather than there's no sense of vulnerability really here that we see from him, and he's just full-on pantomime superhero, unstoppable fighting machine. Now, as an action film, this is a fairly entertaining film, and in actual fact its political points of view in this film is actually, when you consider nowadays where the world is politically, especially with Afghanistan, it's quite an interesting watch, especially when you read the right at the end of the film, it sort of says this film is dedicated to the freedom fighters of Afghanistan. I'm not so sure the US would feel quite the same nowadays in regards to how they feel towards Afghanistan. So it's actually quite an interesting watch in a lot of ways. Now, so far we've been kind of used to seeing Rambo in woods, hills in the first one, First Blood, and jungles is preferred terrain in the second one, and we kind of see that again in the fourth one, in Rambo, where he's just in jungles. It kind of looked a bit out of place in this desert terrain in the third one, and they managed to pry in there. You know, every Rambo film you've got to have that scene where he is creeping about, taking people out one at a time. We got it in First Blood. We obviously got it in Rambo First Blood Part 2. Well, they try and do something similar here in like a cave that just does not work at all, anywhere near as effectively as the other two films. It felt pridey, and it was almost like, oh, we've got to put this in. You've got to see that in a Rambo film. So there are aspects of this film felt completely forced, and then the ending of the film again felt forced and rushed to me, and there's like a bizarre, weird game of chicken between Rambo in a tank and the Russian commander in a huge helicopter that is it's quite hilarious when you watch it, really. So there are aspects of this film that are just totally unbelievable, as all of them are to a large degree, but again it's ramped up to 11 here. It was nice to see Trautman and Rambo fighting alongside each other. That was one of the big high points of the film. And I enjoyed the interrogation scenes between Trautman and the Russian commander. He's obviously a very good actor, or was a very good actor, Richard Crenna, and he delivers those scenes really, makes them really watchable. And some of the scenes between Stallone and the Afghan rebel fighters were actually very impressive. Forget about the ridiculous sporting horse thing he does, which is, again, is just egotistical. There's a great scene where he first turns up and they explain to him why they're reluctant to help him, and they go through all the atrocities that their country have seen at the hands of the Russians, and it's a really, really nice scene and quite a hard hitting scene, and it's one of the strongest scenes in the film. So there are aspects of this film that really, really work, but Stallone himself will admit that the failings of this film are his fault because he didn't put enough vulnerability in Rambo and emotion into the film. So for that point, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's certainly a watchable action film, but in my opinion, it is the weakest of the Rambo franchise. So that is my review for Rambo 3. Stay tuned for Rambo, the fourth Rambo flick, leading up to, of course, Rambo Last Blood, which is coming out at the end of the week, that I'm really looking forward to seeing now, especially after rewatching all these Rambo films and doing the reviews. I'm really, really hyped for this new Rambo film, so I'm hoping it's going to be good. So thanks for watching, everybody, and of course I'll see you next time on Screen Stars.